It's happening again. It's more Rubin, and I don't want to. I'm Jake.
Hannah, how you doing?
And today we're talking about immigration, and Dave Rubin is the head of the Department of Immigration in this fantasy world that we have set up. And so we're talking about his deep policy decisions in regards to immigration. Boy, am I excited for Dave Rubin's 4 to 5 IQ take on whatever is about to happen here. Is there anything we need to prep before? Is there any? Do we need to? Are we just sliding right in, or are we gonna?
I don't think so. I
have
just
a lubrication.
That the right still thinks that like Barack Obama is some super uber leftist.
Oh, we'll get there. Also, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, yeah. So, this chapter opens up, and the first thing out of Dave's stupid fucking mouth is, "I wouldn't dream of getting off a flight into another country, swaggering up to the immigration officer and demanding permanent residency." Has this ever happened in the history of American immigration?
No.
Ever?
It's a straw man.
Of course not. You think there's fucking a Mexican family huddled together for warmth in the cold desert night, being rounded up by Border Patrol chuds and being like, "I demand residency in the country. It's my right." No, motherfucker. Do you know the reason that they fucking run across the fucking desert and they get muled across? It's because you won't let them in.
I was gonna say, because their country has been destroyed by the cartels that rose to power after the prominence of the war on drugs in the Americas.
How do you say yikes in Reagan? Yeah, yikes. Just normal yikes. It's a normal yikes. So,
I'm trying to think how to say yikes with Alzheimer's, but I don't know.
Well, but you would forget. So there you go. You did it.
Okay.
You did it. That's exactly how it would work. He goes on to say, "It doesn't take a genius to understand that they'd be entirely justified in turning me away without being branded racist, far-right xenophobes who suffer from fragility of whatever sort." I guess he's talking about white fragility here, which is not where that discussion is from. White fragility is a discussion about like our relationship with minorities in the country, not with our relationship with immigrants outside of whatever.
A more apt description would also not be some white, well-off millionaire Dave Rubin dude, but an impoverished family from a war-torn country seeking asylum in some country. That would be a better example, but he doesn't want to address the actual facts.
Well, no, of course not.
Facts don't care about your feelings; they care about Dave's feelings.
He very quickly goes on to defend nationalism, which he says is a sort of cornerstone facet of classical liberalism, which doesn't really vibe with libertarianism in any way, shape, or form. He also says that he very strongly values nation states. I value nation states-ish.
I value it in the same sense that I value my local government.
Like you need to organize in a certain way, but honestly, I can't think of a reason why, parts of Texas don't have similar laws to like northern Mexico. Like there's a lot of cultural crossover. I don't know. So
I've talked about this on stream before, but the idea of nationalism as the end all be all of identity, or even something that's important, is hilarious, because all throughout human history, we've gone from like tribes to villages to towns to cities to city-states. You know what I mean? The grand organization has it is stratified in the sense that we still have towns and cities, but over time we create ways of organizing at larger scales and expanding what we consider our in-group. Nationalism has been a thing for a long time, but at this point it seems to make sense in a globalized economy to have some sort of centralized power. It doesn't have to be.
And I wouldn't even say just the globalized economy. Globalized socialization because of social media and our interconnectivity, and just the fact that, like, literally, if you lived in Australia right now, I could just turn this on and we could talk in real time. Like we are so connected as people, and I understand that there's this, like, big cultural differences, and there's lots of heritage you gotta worry about. And it's like, I'm not trying to whitewash anything. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like, America we should Americanize everything. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that as a collective unit of people, like in the world, our populations mesh pretty fucking well on a social level. Like, I know a lot of people from all over the world, and I'm sure everybody does at this point, where you're just like, yeah, we're just people. We like video games. We like food. We like music. We like hanging out together. We like different stupid things. And we like memes. Like, we're very basic people, and we want basic human rights. And basic, if my rights are any different than your rights, then you or I deserve the rights to equalize that. That's it. That's the whole thing. We just want the same shit. And I don't think being on the other side of a border has any bearing on your value as a human being.
It just becomes arbitrary at a certain point. Like, what if we erected today walls between the states within the United States?
Some people are for that. Literally have had conversations with people that are like, well, I think we should wall off Texas because they have all the oil money. And it's like, stop it. Stop. One of the things about the union is free change between. Do you want to limit someone's liberty? This is a great example of how libertarianism and they're not fucking libertarian. Like Vermin Supreme is a great example of a good fucking libertarian. He's like, I want everyone to have. He wears a boot on his fucking hat, but he actually has good. Have you watched the libertarian caucus, or not the caucuses, the primaries before?
I've seen cringe compilations.
Right, so there's cringe compilations, everybody, and then there's Vermin Supreme, who literally has a boot on his hat, who's like, here's a really reasonable policy, blah, 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 blah. And then someone else is like, I think we should make pterodactyls legal. And it's like, they're not illegal, they just don't exist. Give me pterodactyls! And then Vermin Supreme is like, I think maybe drugs should be legal. Like, that's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's stuff like that. And Dave Rubin is so far away from this.
In one of those, I saw someone get booed by the audience for saying that driver's licenses aren't a bad idea.
Yeah. No, it's great shit. I love that shit. I'm sure I disagree with libertarians on a lot of stuff, but I mean, like, from Dave Rubin's standpoint, classical liberal and libertarianism are like really close together. I don't know why you would be for an institution, nationalism, that literally limits your liberty in a lot of different ways, specifically in regards to your movement. Like you literally need money, which, by the way, biggest wall for liberty ever is money. And you, not letting people in. There's this whole thing with we should put a wall up, and he even goes and says I'm not for a wall, but I'm not against it. I'm a fence sitter. Waka waka. Literally wrote waka waka in the book. I'm not making that up. Not a joke. I did have to go through it. Now you do too. He's like, in Israel it worked really well. Because Israel were fucking subject to terrorist attacks. It's like, apartheid states often do experience terrorism, yeah.
Oh, God. Here's what I don't get, too. Because in a globalized economy, which we do have, whether you like it or not, this is the reality in which we live. I don't care about your fantasy land where you go back to the 1950s and no one owns electronics from Japan or whatever. Anyway, the capitalist class more or less is able to move their operations around the globe. Manufacturing is a global endeavor. So when you try and wall people off in terms of labor groups, it creates these pockets where people are able to be taken advantage of by corporations. That's why you have Apple making iPhones in China with slave labor. If you have a more egalitarian system that allows labor to move globally, then the global labor market and labor laws will fall more in line with each other.
But won't things get more expensive?
Fine! That's why you need to have a top-down change of how corporate structure works, so much of the benefits of labor don't go funneled up directly in the pyramid scheme that is modern late-stage capitalism.
Again, and we like our PlayStation 5s and our Cyberpunk. We literally held off work to look at things we can only get with markets like this, right? We can only get cyberpunk or anything or any entertainment like that in this world. Now I know there's some socialists or whatever saying like, nah, you can get it somewhere, but not in the way it works, right? Not in this international sort of global economy thing. Like, I like aspects of it, but I'm not looking for the fucking like why do we have to exploit Mexican labor when they could come here, or we could get rid of the idea of being able to exploit people in other countries in general, and we could have a global economy that works for everybody. Did you know that if consumers make money, they'll consume more things?
Yes.
And did you know that capitalism needs consumers?
I did know that.
And last but not least, did you know that if there are a lot of consumers consuming a lot of things and capitalism needs consumers, producers win?
But how about this? How about instead I stagnate wages for 30 years.
Ooh, and stagnate all the money so that there's not a lot of money moving around?
And then I get 20 houses and 3 private jets.
I only have one body. I can't even imagine having 20 houses to put my one body in.
I feel like once you get like $30 billion, they send you a trophy in the mail that says, congratulations, you've won capitalism. And damn if I don't want that fucking trophy. So
we are just temporarily embarrassed millionaires. That's all it is. That's all it is. By the way, he brings up the Holocaust here. Told you. I don't know why or in what. He's talking about Angela Merkel, who regretted letting in a bunch of Syrian, Afghani, and Iraqi people, refugees, human beings.
The right likes to demonize left-leaning policies in Germany, and when they do so, they tend to bring up the Holocaust.
No way.
As if it's a gotcha. But bear in mind, if you bring up American slavery or the genocide of the Native Americans,
no, it didn't happen.
They go, whoa, that's nothing to do with me. Why are you blaming me? I wasn't alive during that.
Fuck's sake. So anyway, he goes on to say that basically, we should have borders. People shouldn't be allowed in. They should do it the right way. You know what a really great way to do it the right way? Like, you don't need a wall. I could fix your immigration right now. First of all, you end the drug war that you mentioned at the beginning of this, which is fantastic. You just end the drug war. Done. Okay? First of all the cartels, they're gone. So, to most extent, maybe they're gun run or something. I don't know. But maybe, figure that out too. So, and it's not violence. Don't do violence. Don't do the violence. Just stop their money and they won't make it. So, the next thing you do is instead of building a wall, you build processing centers with social workers and have anyone that wants to come from the southern border, whether they're from Mexico or Guatemala or Peru, however the fuck they got here. There's a lot of south of us, whole lots of it, and a lot of people come from there. You process them and be like, hey, okay, here's your path to citizenship. And disincentivize illegal immigration, saying, hey, it's an easier path if you legally get processed here because we can start you off on the right foot. And he also brings up, learn English. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you go to any country where the language is different than the one you speak and it's the primary language, especially in regards to commerce, absolutely try to learn it. But there's some people that aren't going to be able to do that shit. Like I don't want to be there's some people that might just not have the mental capacity to do so, and it doesn't mean that they don't deserve a better life because they might have a learning disability or something. You know what I mean? I don't think that should be a gate to keep someone from getting treated decently. I'm totally fine with having processing centers and just being like, hey, come in, be a citizen, because who works fucking harder than someone that's willing to drown in the ocean to get to fucking Miami? Have you been to Miami? Only good if you're rich.
This is what I do get it. This is what I don't like about right policies when they're like, come in the right way, because they'll say this on one hand, on the other hand, doing everything they can to reduce the amount of legal immigration.
Oh, yeah.
It's a complete shit grift. It's them trying to say, well, we're not against immigration, we're just against illegal immigration. Meanwhile, they do everything in their power to shrink the number of people coming into the country legally, thus leaving the only avenue for people to come in to be illegally. It's ridiculous.
They do the same thing with the with the BLM shit. Like, oh, protest this way, not that way. And then when a guy kneeled on his platform, they blackballed him. Like, no, not that way. Okay, what way to do it? Well, do it peacefully. Okay, they do it peacefully, and then they shoot fucking tear gas at him. No, you didn't do it right. Like, well, now you're getting shit burned down. Like, that's just how it fucking works. Like there's a reason that people fucking rush the border and violence occurs from time to time. Often because they need the support of someone like a cartel, which, by the way, is very dangerous to people getting here, but they're willing to do whatever it takes to get out of their current situation because partially we fucked their country. Like, if there's a fucked country, the odds that America has part of that fucking under their resume is high.
If it's not America, it's generally the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, or one of, those Western countries like that, Russia. I don't know. He continues on to do the thing that he should never have done. Never. He invoked Barack Obama, our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama. It goes Bernie Sanders, Karl Marx, K-pop, and then Barack Obama. Okay, right at the tippy tip top.
Yeah, I was gonna say between Marx and the one above that,
K-pop.
But that lady who sold Gamer Girl bathwater, she's in there somewhere.
Belle Delphine?
Yes,
that's the one. I didn't buy any of that. So I was very quenched. So he says. Here's a quote from Barack Obama. Our direct message to families is do not send your children to the border. If they do make it, they'll be sent back, but they may not make it at all. And then he says, yes, that's progressive hero, Mr. Hope, and change himself, Barack Obama, sounding an awful lot like evil racist Republican Donald Trump. Wouldn't you say? Guess what? Yes! Yes, he does sound like that, because he is like that. He's bad. Yes, he's better than Donald Trump, but he's not good. Like, that's not our bar. Our bar isn't like, oh, we'll send your Mexican children back across the border. We know it's dangerous. Who gives a fuck? We're not for that. Why do they keep thinking they're arguing with not who they're arguing with? He's arguing against, like, fucking, I don't know, like a person that goes to Barack Obama, like the same people that dance for Pete Buttigieg is who he's like fucking arguing with right now.
I was gonna say it's like a 50-year-old wine mom, who dropped acid in the 60s, so she's pretty open-minded, but not too open-minded.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like as long as they do it behind closed doors, I don't care what the gays do. You know what I mean? Like that kind of the soft racism of oh, she's good looking for an Asian or an Oriental. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, those liberals exist and they're trash. Often they're very trash. Like they might have good intentions too. They don't necessarily know they're trash. But Dave Rubin, these are not the fucking people you're arguing with. When there's a huge population of actual left-leaning people, not liberals, actual leftists or just right of it, that are like, no, this is bullshit. Human rights exist regardless of border. We shouldn't be having this. Barack Obama is not great on this subject, and that's not close. Like, you can't debate that. He literally bombed an American citizen, a child. I'm just tossing that out there. More than once, I'm sure. Like, come on. Like this isn't. Why does he do this?
Because he thinks liberals have he thinks everyone left of him has the same slavish devotion to people on their side that people on the right have to the people on theirs.
Is it ethical to invite people into our country just to have them flounder? I don't think so. I agree. Let's talk about this. He didn't bring this up, but let's talk about the different aspects that one should expect out of a country that claims to be the greatest country on earth in regards to immigration. What are some rights that you think an immigrant should have the second they walk through the gates? Let's say they're processed, they come through legally, right? Because we don't the thing you want is you want a census. That's why you want people to come through legally. So you know where to allocate funds, and you know where everybody's at, and not to like like penetrate their life with the Patriot Act, but just to make sure that you know what you need where you need it. That's really the true reason. And obviously you want to provide help with those people. You want to provide them resources, and you want to be like, hey, you're from another place. You want to be, if you want to be an American and successful in America, there are some things that you probably have to do. It wouldn't hurt to learn the language of commerce, which is English. It wouldn't hurt to have access to schools and healthcare and stuff like that. So what are some basic tenets for someone that comes through like that, in your opinion? This is going to piss Dave Rubin off. This is piss Dave Rubin off. But yeah, some things that guaranteed
easy access to health care.
Okay, let's talk about that first, because I agree. And I agree that for all citizens and non-citizens. And why is that? Why do you think that is? What's the besides the obvious, I think, humanitarian reason of just like, obviously we take care of people when they're here, what's the next best reason?
The selfish reason would be you want your labor force to be healthy and able to work.
And the other reason is I don't want them to fucking spread their shit to me. If they have access to healthcare, they can't spread it to me. And that helps the labor force. It's good for capitalism. It's good for every system, really. But it's also good for capital. It helps capitalism. You want your labor force to be healthy. Now, what else do you want your labor force to be? What's another thing? Educated. So they should have access to education, just like every American citizen. Probably up to 4-year college. Probably. Maybe even more. Who fucking knows? And definitely trade schools and stuff like that. What's the argument against it? They didn't pay anything. Who gives a shit? They will be paying stuff because guess what? They're going to get a fucking 6-figure job and work in the tech field and be very successful and create jobs and shit in the future, which is a thing that fucking we fetishize. So yeah, let's incentivize that shit. Absolutely. They're not taking jobs from anybody because capitalists always argue there are infinite jobs. Is there anything else that they should be guaranteed?
I would say if they run into a rough spot, they should have access to social safety nets to guarantee that they don't end up homeless on the streets, which costs more in the long run to get people back from the very bottom than it is to catch them as they're falling.
Is homelessness a section on here? Because, boy, I would love to talk about homelessness. Homelessness is such a fixable thing, and we just refuse to do it. And then we also refuse them places to stay, to the point where the conversation is almost to, should we just kill these folks or what? Like, that's how fucking poorly we treat people that can't afford a place to be inside. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Again, every single American citizen and just person that exists here, especially if they're trying to be a citizen, like, they should have access to shelter. It doesn't have to be great. It's just like a one room with a bed and a shower and a place to shit. A place that's sanitary. A place that has access to like power and internet access. Internet access is like fundamental now. Like there are people that live in the country that don't have internet access and they fucking bitch about it all the time. And I don't know, like my mom doesn't have internet access and I'm trying to get her to do it. She lives in the fucking 50s. She literally eats canned green beans. What the fuck's going on, Mom? I know you're watching.
I was going to say, even if literally we had homeless shelters that are widely available, but what they offer is effectively, you know, those Japanese micro hotels that are basically just like a little bed thing, that access to
I think you need privacy.
Wi-Fi.
I think the dignity of having a private space, even if it's a 10 by 10 room, like even if it's just a bedroom, the dignity of having your own private space and having a place to keep your shit safely is paramount to the human experience. And no one wants to stay in that state. Who wants to stay in that state? But now we're giving them access to that plus food and water. Everybody should have access to food and water. Basics. Like I'm not talking McDonald's. I'm talking like, here's produce. Here's some stuff. Basically MREs or whatever. Just something that is nutritional enough to get people by. And because a homeless think of if you're homeless, right? What are some things keeping you from getting a job? Number one's probably your hygiene and your presentation, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, there's places like Goodwill and stuff that sell clothes for really cheap. There's places that you could probably get garments. You could just imagine a shower, a safe place to sleep with no crime. Plus, the drug war's gone. You know what I'm saying? Because we've already fixed that. You also have access to free education. Mm-hmm. What's stopping you from having a successful life? And I guess we're getting a little bit away from immigration, but not really, because I think that immigrants should have this opportunity as well. Like, this is fundamental to being the greatest country in the world, is giving people equality of opportunity, not outcome. People will settle in different spots. Like, I'm not gonna be an NBA player, and I'm fine with that. I don't have to be LeBron. Like, I don't have to be the best in the world to be viable in some other avenue, right? And no one else does either. There's lots of different things that people's different vocations and likes and stuff can get to, and some people, we can talk about later on the fetishization with like labor in general and how we base someone's worth on how much money and how much work they do. But like, we should have a baseline. Like, there should be nobody that suffers from this unless they choose to. Like, it literally should become a choice to be homeless. I don't know. I feel like we're just too right. We're just too correct.
Yep.
We just crushed it. Who's going to pay for it? It'll perpetuate itself because, again, you have better consumers. You have better producers. It just helps everybody. Helps everybody. You might have a little downtick in the overall funds of the United States at the beginning, but not really. Money's made up.
I guarantee it wouldn't be as much as the trillions we've spent to invade the Middle East.
We could stop invading the Middle East. Anyway, so that's immigration. Unless you had anything else to talk about. He talked about low-skilled workers. He talks about automation. He's like, automation is taking jobs. It's like, yeah, maybe we should talk about UBI, buddy. Like it's all these things. Like, we can't let immigrants in. Look at all these problems we have. And it's like, but we refuse to address the problems. Like, address the problems.
I just want to point out the last line in this chapter is, if this makes me a racist xenophobe, I suspect I'm in good company.
Yeah, but he considers Ben Shapiro good company, and Ben Shapiro hates Dave's guts. So it's like, whatever. It's kind of sad, if honestly. He's just like, one of my good friends literally hates my existence. Wow, that's fucking sounds sad, dude. Hopefully your husband's a nice dude. I don't know anything about Dave's husband. Hopefully that's a good thing. Because I can't imagine Dave is held together by many friendships that support him based on the company he tries to keep. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing. Another thing happened very close to this. Blair White had a discussion with Ben Shapiro, and I guess he misgendered her the whole time. Like, it was like a while ago. And I guess, and frankly, part of me has this, like, I feel bad, and the other part of me is like, well, I mean, you made this bed. Here,
you can't say it, so I'll say this as the local trans individual. You know what, Blair White?
Fuck you.
Made your bed, fucking sleep in it. You make friends with transphobes.
Well,
you fucking you go up to bat for these shithole people. What do you think's gonna happen?
Well, I can say that. I don't know. I have a little bit of, I don't know. It's just a little sad. It's sad in the same way the Dave Rubin thing is sad, where I don't really give a shit, but it's sad. So she was fine on the interview, and apparently afterwards there were a lot of people in her in-groups, it leaked out that she, like, fucking cried for a while. Like, yeah. Well, yeah, yes.
Blair.
Of course. I don't know. Anyway, so don't be friends with Ben Shapiro or people like him. That's pretty much the whole point. Did we address everything? All the argument? I mean, he pretty much just didn't want people in the country. I don't know. And we destroyed it with facts and logic. Do you know what's the next section on here? Next section or two?
It is. Oh no.
Oh, good. I'm sure this will be fine. What's that?
Abortion.
Kill the fetuses. Next.
Free speech.
That's a long one. Okay, so those will probably be two parts because there's no way we can stack abortion on top of that. So we'll do another one of those soon. Oh God, if you want to smash these really hard, we can do that. We can rattle off a few Dave Rubins in a row. Boy, I don't know. He's not like an intellectual giant or anything, and it's like weird that he has a following. I don't really understand it. I think there's tokenization that happens when you just be like, oh look, a gay. I listen to a gay, and you call him a gay, and it's like, yeah, that's it. It's a Jesse Lee Peterson thing, in my opinion. Anyway, so that's it. We're done. Rant over.
You can follow us. You can support us on Patreon, link in the description. You can find Jake's Twitch, where he streams all the time at twitch.tv/actualjake.
You can find Hannah's at Hannah Reloaded. We both have gimmicks. We are both debased and debauched. And you have that. I have this. It's just a thing that happened, okay? So if you want to see me genuinely have real discussions with people that I disagree with strongly and fundamentally while wearing this hat or a full suit of corn in all earnesty, not even mentioning it and then having the discussion, then this is the place for you. If you'd like to see Mjolnir and some sort of cane happen, go over there. If you'd like both, yeah, you should do both. A lot of content over there that you should that you really are missing and will enjoy. I promise. The live experience is fantastic, and also, frankly, Twitch treats us better.
True, very true.
So come on over there. Click on over. I use YouTube. I'm scared to go somewhere else. Don't worry, baby birds. We'll guide you in. We'll guide you in.
On YouTube for almost a decade, and we get treated better by Twitch, where I've been for like a month, and you've been for like 2 years. So fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Well, really a year. I had an account and didn't really do anything with it, but yeah. It's a whole thing. So, love your faces. Enjoy the rest of your time away from Dave Rubin, because more is coming at you. And you won't be able to avoid it. We'll force it. We'll force it down your throat, just like we forced gay marriage down Ben Shapiro's throat. Good times. All right. Love you. Love you. Love you guys. Sex noise.